Dun, 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 dun.
All right, are we ready?
You guys.
Uh,
Uh,
uh. All right, on that note, goat. All right, I'll go ahead and start. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of. Oh my God. You have no idea what I was literally about to say. Welcome to another episode of The Walking Dead. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Cantina Club, Outer Rim. We're going to talk about episode 3 of Game of Thrones
Episode.
8. Yeah, this will not be an episode, but we just to put it out there on and at the beginning, we definitely talk spoilers here. So if you haven't seen the episode, you need to go somewhere else or stay tuned and listen to everything that happened, because we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of everything. And we definitely survived the Battle of Winterfell. So we'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back. We're going to jump right in with our initial thoughts on episode 3, the Battle of Winterfell, or actually, I guess the name of the episode was The Long Night for episode 3, season 8 of Game of Thrones. So let's start this week with Gundark. What were your initial impressions of this episode?
I loved it. I had a few disappointments with it, but overall, I thought it was a beautiful battle episode. There were a lot of things that were thrilling to me. And I'll talk about, I know there's the big controversy now on social media and among critics about the cinematography and the film, but we can talk more about that in a minute. I didn't have a problem with it. But overall, I really enjoyed it. There's a little bit of disappointment for me at the end that might be mitigated by further episodes in the series. So I'm going to have to hold off on final
I'll be
judgment.
interested to hear what that is. I didn't know you were
Yeah.
disappointed in anything.
Yeah, I'll hold off on final judgment.
What happened at the end? What was she disappointed in?
I'll give it back to you guys.
All right, Greedo, what do you think?
I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed watching it. My initial impression was that I really didn't have too much of a problem with the dark cinematography, and I am the ultimate hater of all things dark in media. The movie was too dark. There was a blue tint over a whole lot of it that I just couldn't wrap my head around.
That's one of my favorite things about it.
No, dude, you can't really defend that. When they're on the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, yes, I can.
You cannot.
I like it. You thought that the last Star Wars movie was just a tad too dark? I seem to remember.
A tad?
When
they're on the Millennium Falcon talking and the whole ship is white on the inside and you still see the detail as the shot is dark, that's too dark. And there's no excuse. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all these dark movies. Movies like Underworld. We were talking about Underworld and all these movies with bad CGI. They're all dark. Let's count the Star Wars movies that have been too dark. Rogue One, Solo.
Wow.
Just want to see the freaking movie.
So how did this compare? Was it too dark? That's the critical question.
The movie was too dark. It was too dark because they made the choice. Anyway, but let's stick with my initial thoughts. I was giving it praise, and you derailed me. You're just provoking me into the. But it could be where you could see it. It was just too.
I didn't have a problem seeing it.
About it is please stop doing this. Show us. Don't. But it's great, and then there's all these show us, and you can't show me when it's too dark like that.
But what didn't you see? I'm trying to figure out what didn't you see.
I want to see everything. Captain, let me run into the phone booth. Captain Negative, this looks like a job. Negative. They're asking if it was too dark. I have to say it was. Captain Negative. Anyway, My initial thoughts, I enjoyed it. I don't know. I thinking since we have these, we're not binging them, but we're doing them 1 week apart, and this really feels like one big movie to me because the first 2 episodes were complete buildup for this episode. There was almost nothing else happened, just asides.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of judging them all together, and I'm wondering. I did enjoy it, but I'm wondering if it's really been the right way to go for this season. I'm not sure. They're gonna have to sway me with what's next, but so far, I loved the episode. I've liked every episode so far. I loved the battle, especially the chaos parts of it were just amazing. I love that stuff. Um, but overall, the payoff is what you're left with, and um, there were some big payoff moments in this that were exhilarating to watch the first time, but I don't know if they did the story the right service or not. So I'm on the fence more than I thought I would be. Even when I was watching it, I was really enjoying it. But there's a difference between just enjoying something for what it is and then looking at it in the bigger picture. So enjoying it for what it was, I really enjoyed it. The bigger picture, we haven't finished the story yet, but this part of the story, I'm a little underwhelmed on with the direction they decided to go. So that's my initial thoughts. But for the episode, man, what a undertaking it must have been. Congratulations to everyone involved. No matter what you
Absolutely.
want to criticize about it,
Yeah.
half of art is finishing it. So
Oh, yeah,
if you
absolutely.
can finish it, kudos to you. Like, I can't
Yeah. Well,
imagine being able to finish
the articles are out there. I mean, it was 52 straight nights, straight days of night shoots.
Wow.
And I mean, there was, I don't think they actually named the actors, but one actress actually passed out at one point, just from overwork and probably not eating right. And just, I'm guessing, if I had to guess, I'd say it was Maisie Williams, because she had a
Probably,
pretty,
yeah. It could have been
athletic,
the little girl too. I mean, she had some tough stuff to do, and
yeah,
she's
some
little.
stuff. Yeah, plus
Um,
she's tiny. Yeah.
mhm.
So, but anyway, my initial thoughts is overall, I really enjoyed the episode. I didn't have as much of a problem with it being dark, because I guess my first viewing on the TV I watched on the first time was extra dark, but then
Yeah.
I've since rewatched it on a different television with the full HD and the normal brightness. I didn't even turn up the brightness any on the TV, and it looked a whole lot. I could really make out a whole lot more of what was going on, and pick up a lot more detail. So
Mhm.
I really don't have that much of a problem with it, and I do like dark things, because I mean that mood that it created was perfect. That's exactly in my mind how I pictured that battle was going to look before it happened. So I enjoyed it. Again, yeah, like you said, big picture, I think we're going to need the resolution of the season to really figure out how that episode fits in the grand pick, and sort of the whole denouement of the end of the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I thought it had some really impactful moments. Some of the artistic shots were absolutely
Oh, they
breathtaking.
were gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
were some shots that were just unbelievable. I just to pick out my favorite was the shot of the two dragons breaking through the clouds, and you see the
Yeah.
moon up there, and then they're just kind of hovering there right before the
That
Night
was
King comes
beautiful.
bursting
Yeah.
through. That was just amazing. So, anyway, but yeah, bottom line is overall initial thoughts. I loved the episode. Um, it was definitely well worth the wait.
Can we, since you were all talking about camera work and cinematography, can we start with that,
Of
since
course,
that's
yeah,
something that's really trending in the articles about it right now.
absolutely.
When I
So
started,
what's the trending? I haven't read any of the articles.
um,
Just a summary. I mean, what is your impression?
yeah, the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, reviews are at 73% positive. There
That's
are
really low for Game of
yeah,
Yeah,
Thrones, isn't it?
yeah,
there are critics who are complaining about we can talk about the
How it freezes.
issue, how the Night King was killed too easily.
yeah.
And there weren't enough deaths of main characters and things like that. But then there's the big issue, especially on social media, has been complaints about the dark cinematography.
Hmm.
And when
Yeah.
I read that, I read as soon as we watched Greedo and I watched it on a big screen in an auditorium at a university, with a bunch of Game of Thrones fans, and it was thrilling to watch on the big screen. I understood everything that was going on in the battle. There were obviously shots with jittery handheld camera to give you a sense of the
Hmm.
chaos at certain moments,
Right.
but that was always integrated with long takes following characters through the geography of the battle or cutting from one location to another. It made it clear where they were, and I really admired how the director was able to give you an overall sense of the geography of everything and then go
Right.
from place to
Hmm.
place very clearly. I
Right. Exactly.
followed it all without a problem. And the cinematography did not seem too dark to me. That's what I was shocked by because I knew it was
Hmm.
all going to take place at night. It was going
Yeah.
to be a major spectacle. And I thought I saw everything, the shots with the dragons flying in the night and then the
Hmm.
blizzard storm coming upon them was awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, that blizzard storm was amazing. I thought that was a really well
yeah, that was
thought out
it was a good idea
plot
to get
point
the
as
dragons
well.
out of commission. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
obviously, you think the Night King knows he's going up against two dragons. He's got to do something to try and neutralize that, and I thought that was pretty well done.
yeah. So,
I like
so
how we
I,
created a new term, blizzard storm.
I, I
It's
so
like tornado whirlwind.
I don't
I like the tornado
so when
whirlwind.
when I started reading, and we watched it on the big screen, I understood it all. Greedo, who hates the dark stuff, wasn't like shouting out, "It's too dark."
The movie was too
So,
dark.
so when we left, I went home and I watched it again on I guess 15-plus-year-old plasma screen television, 50-inch television with my husband, and
Which
it
has
looked
great darks,
incredible.
by the way. Yeah, plasma is the way to go with dark reproduction and everything. So
It was beautiful. So I'm wondering, and then I look at different reviews, like the Washington Post critics review said this is an artistic failure because of the cinematography. She used those
yeah.
words.
Yeah,
And
that's
then the
not
New York
correct.
Times reviewer said this so far exceeded my expectations and was so beautifully shot. And so what I'm thinking is that it must
It's
be that,
individual perception. Yeah.
yes, the
People get
devices aren't
frustrated trying to
perfect.
follow the action if they can't follow it, and they at some point some people throw up their hands and go, I can't handle this anymore, it's too much information. Once the battle start got going, it was fast, and if you care about certain characters, a lot of them have mullets, a lot of them are wearing wolf pelts, a lot of them are pale face, they're fighting. It was hard to differentiate, but they're trying to convey the chaos of a battle mostly. Yeah, but certain people are going to get frustrated not being able to follow that and blame the cinematography and everything, and it's too much information. A whole scene goes by and you're like, what just happened? And you can't really rewind,
Yeah,
because you're watching it live.
yeah.
And so I understand but some people just appreciate it for what it is. I'm the king of hate on that stuff, and I had no problem with it really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I don't.
I
I
I
don't.
wish they had gone another way, and I wish they had divided the battle up. I wish, where's the sun? I thought the sun was gonna. How long was I know it was the long night, but I wish they divided the battle up to where the sunrise comes up, and we could have gotten some
There was still
more
A
light.
little
different
bit,
looks.
yeah,
Different looks, yeah. Because we've had
yeah,
3 episodes that feel really dark, whether they were or not. They all felt like this
yeah,
pall was over them, and it would have been nice to have a change.
Hmm.
yeah.
Anyway,
I
I
did,
interrupted.
I did like though how the sun, just the
Came through at
dawn,
the
was just
end. Yeah.
peeping at the end as
Hmm.
Melisandre passed. I thought that
Yeah.
was cool. But overall, I don't understand. The only thing I can imagine these problems about cinematography is that people are viewing them on differently calibrated machines,
I think so as well.
and
Yeah.
so maybe it's geared towards
Um,
specifically
People,
calibrated
every
machines.
individual is different. It's just like with music. Some people will crank the bass way up, and other people, like, the bass annoys them and they turn it down.
Hmm.
If you can hear the bass, there's like, oh, there's too much bass, and it depends on your age as well. Everything, people see everything and hear everything completely different, so it's very hard to tell. But a lot of it comes down to personal preference, and they made a choice to make it dark and go with the chaos the whole way and everything, and so be it. I wish they had made a different choice, but I'm not complaining about it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I wish it had been more like Hard Home. I hate to keep bringing it. I was bringing it up the other night. Like, we
Yeah,
should have watched that before. Hard Home was very easy to follow from what I remember.
Oh
It
yeah.
was it was dark, but it was lit where you could see what was going on. And the just pallid nature of that scene at the end where he raises the dead, but you
Hmm.
could see in detail everything going on, but it was very gothic and very horrifying and very
Right.
dark.
it
Um,
was the same director, Mikhail
Hmm.
or Miguel Sapochnik, who
He
yeah.
did
did
that
Battle of
and
the
Battle of the
Bastards.
Bastards.
Yeah.
I have to say that guy has put some of the best medieval
He's great.
fantasy battle sequences
Yeah.
on film ever.
He's great. He's
Um,
phenomenal. What are you
so,
gonna say about him except
Yeah.
that?
Absolutely.
and I did want to mention before we pass on to other subjects in terms of camera work, Carillion mentioned the shot that you really liked of the dragons flying up out of the clouds in the
Yeah.
moonlight. I loved the dragons going at each other in the dogfight. I thought
Mhm.
that was awesome, where they're ripping the throat out of the ice dragon,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
the ice fire is spewing out the wounds of his throat.
That's one of the things I've pointed out a couple of times to friends today talking about. That was one of I thought the coolest additions at the end there.
Me
Yeah,
too.
the
Yeah, I
fact
brought
that the
that up as soon as
side
it was
the
over. I
throat
loved
got so
that.
the fire was coming out the sides even. Yeah, that was really
Yeah.
well
And
done.
if he got torn up more, it'd probably been coming out of his chest and everywhere else
Right.
too by the time it was done. Yeah,
And I
that
think
was great.
my other two favorite shots, another one of the dragons where after the blizzard comes in, they go down beneath the cloud. The clouds are coming. It's like an
Mhm.
extreme long shot, and the clouds are over them, and they're hovering over the battlefield
Yeah.
with these huge clouds surging behind them. So, the dragon photography was just incredible.
Yeah.
And then there was that one shot that both Greedo and I just, oh my God, aloud when we were watching it. When the Dothraki rode into battle in
Oh,
the cavalry
absolutely.
charge.
Oh, and the
That
ballista and
low
everything
angle.
that were firing behind over their
Yeah,
heads.
That was
you got
such a great
the low
shot.
angle tracking shot riding
Yeah.
with them, looking at Jorah, Ghost, and the Dothraki while the flaming
Yeah,
missiles from the
projectiles are going
catapults
over.
flying
Has
over.
anyone heard anything about Ghost? Is Ghost dead or not?
Ghost is
Ghost
alive.
God.
They've said that
Yes.
If
somewhere.
you watch the
You
preview,
can see him in the trailer.
yeah.
Oh, I did watch the preview, but I totally
It's just a wide shot of like a
missed
group of
that.
people. But if you
So
freeze it
Ghost
and
was
look, there's
smart
a
enough to sit that one out once he
yeah.
saw what was going on. Okay. Because that was cool of him loping next to Jorah when they were charging. That was one of my favorite shots as well.
Yeah, that
Was
was
Ghost
really good.
just kind of loping along, and it's
Yeah.
like, how do you train your horse to not freak
Go with
out when
the
the
dire
direwolf's
wolf.
running
Yeah.
next
Right with
to
a
it?
dire wolf running at right beside
And
it.
again, I said it before, but kudos to the guy who plays Jorah for his horsemanship.
Yeah,
Oh
He was
yeah.
amazing in this episode on
Mhm.
horseback. Can't be easy.
Absolutely.
52 nights or whatever. And I don't know how many he spent on the horse, but
Right. No, it was phenomenal.
yeah, all the Dothraki. But Jorah, yeah, you just don't really expect that. But knight, the essence of a knight is cavalry. It's horseback.
Yeah.
It's a
Mhm.
horseback
Yep.
armored warrior.
Yep.
Period. That's what he's a cavalier. That's what a knight is, and he really embodied that really well every time they put him on a horse. So.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we're all kind of agreed that the visual spectacle of it was very enjoyable.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't have near as much of a problem as the social media people are talking
Yeah,
about
the
it
since we
being
brought
such an
up the
issue.
Dothraki, the device of their flaming swords being extinguished was a good device to use.
Right.
Yeah.
It was reminding me of the old days when we didn't have $200 million to spend on an episode,
Yeah.
and you told the story with a visual kind of metaphor like that, or was
Mhm.
without having to go into detail, and you still told a great story with that. You know, we've seen all the violence and everything. It was more imposing seeing the lights all swirl around, and obviously you could tell what was going on. It was like each one that was extinguished was guys falling in battle. That was
Right. That was
rough.
really,
Yeah.
really, really well done. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, again, I didn't have that much of a problem with how it was shot. It looked just like I expected it to look, and I was really kind of captivated by
My
how
favorite camera work.
stylistically it was shot.
When you're talking about camera work, I don't always include special effects in that because some of those are composite shots that I don't even know what cameras are used or if they're done in a computer or what, like the Dragon stuff. I know somebody decides how to frame it to look like a camera caught it, but
Mhm.
and maybe the composites like the sky and everything, maybe that was all
Yeah.
camera work. But some of my favorite camera work in the episode was was it a library? Was it the Stark
Yeah.
Library? That whole
Yeah.
sequence. I thought the camera work and the editing worked really well hand in hand there. But the way the place looked was just really perfect, and the sound, look, the camera work, the cinematography, what everything, and the zombies and all that all really worked well together there. I thought
Mhm.
I didn't expect that part.
That was
So it
cool
was really
too.
good.
That was a nice change in pace from the chaos outside to go to that completely silent sequence, very slow moving of Arya trying to avoid the zombies. And I loved how you saw, even though she was terrified, which amped up your horror for her,
Mhm.
that she was still using her faceless assassin skills, where she was just moving without sound at all.
Mhm.
When the blood dripped and the zombie heard it, you realize how silent she had been throughout, because she was able to move all across that room, race under a table without making a sound.
Mhm.
Whereas a drop of blood falling on the floor is about to track
Well,
you.
it was a library. Everybody was being respectful.
That's right.
Even the zombies were pretty quiet. They were perusing the books and whatnot.
Yeah, that was.
But I love the way that scene was shot. When you talk about camera work, that was my favorite sequence, I think. Just out of the whole episode, as far as the way it was shot and everything.
Yeah, it was really well done. Yeah, I enjoyed that very much. Okay, what's next?
Do we want to talk about? I don't know. Do we want to talk any more about the battle things that we liked about the battle, or do we want to go to deaths, or?
We can go and touch on some of the deaths and some of the near misses. I know, obviously, they use the cinematic trope of showing someone be overwhelmed kind of multiple times, like
yeah,
that's it, they're gone, and then someone comes to the rescue at the last second. It started right off the bat with Brienne, and let me just say too, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't. Not saying I'm disappointed. I'm just surprised that they didn't kill a major character right at the beginning.
Yeah.
To kind of
we've been expecting that since the first episode. We thought they'd come right out of the gate and kill someone within the first 10 minutes of the first episode. And
the first 5 minutes of this battle, we were going to lose a Brienne or a Davos.
I thought Jorah was gone when they charged.
Yeah,
I did too.
Yeah, I really thought they were going to do that, just to kind of set the stakes, saying, okay, anything's fair game at this point, but they really didn't go that route. So, but yeah.
I thought Brienne was toast, like, immediately when she screamed when they climbed on her.
I
thought she was being torn apart. You remember that guy from that one episode that fell, and then you just saw pieces come flying out? He fell. I thought that's what was happening to her, and she sold it really well. I mean, she
did, with the scream.
Every time she gets in combat and she's kicking ass, I just lament Captain Phasma and what they could have done with that character.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely true.
What a freaking shame.
But anyway, obviously we almost lost Brienne a couple of times. We almost lost Sam about 3 times.
Jamie,
yeah, exactly.
Sam was like in the undead mosh pit the whole time.
Yeah, Sam was on the ground most of the time, just fighting him off as they fell on him.
Yeah, exactly. And so what about the Hound's sort of arc in this story, in this particular episode? I thought his reaction to the fire was typical. Obviously, we've seen that before. And when the trench goes up in flames, he's just kind of, I'm out. He just doesn't do fire. And plus, at the same time, he was kind of being psychologically overwhelmed, I think, by what was happening, and he just wasn't coping. Which of course, Beric, I think it is Beric, kept yelling at him, "We need you, Clegane. We need you." And then, of course, I thought it was great that it took Arya fighting and struggling to snap him out of it, to go rush to her aid to try and save her, especially after she had saved his life not long before that with the arrow, Yeah, really.
That was one of my favorite moments when she took out the walker or whatever you want to call them, right on his heels. That was awesome. Yeah, that got a lot of applause. People could follow it. When they wanted to show you what was happening, it was just quick. You had to pay attention. But I liked that. I did predict that the Hound, I don't remember if we did it in one of our shows, but it was talking to Gundark. I told her, the Hound's going to have to overcome fire at some point, because they called him a Craven, even in King's Landing. They said the Hound turned Craven when the fire was lit or whatever. And he tried to get Sansa to run away with him. And that's when you first started realizing that he's not what he appears to be.
Right.
And, fire has always been his thing, but also it's his calling in a way, because he's been drawn to the Lord of Light kind of arc and everything as well. I thought it was kind of shoehorned in a little bit, but it worked. Yeah, because he's done it before. There was a lot of fire going on, and anybody in that situation would be like, "Hey, it's over, the game over." You look around, you see this, and you see the Dothraki charge, and they don't come back, and anybody would feel that way. And I would, if I'd been him, I'd been like, "Hey, I'm holding up this wall. Leave me alone." It's like against that wall. It's like, if I move, this wall's gonna fall down. But yeah, of course it was Arya that snapped him out of it. And then once he became a killing machine again, and he seemed to find once he got inside and away from all the burning, except for the sword, He
Yeah.
seemed to find his spine again, and he had a
Absolutely.
purpose. He's a minion. He needs a purpose. He needs,
Right.
and he needs someone to be loyal to. I mean, that's
Yes,
what
he
a dog
connects
is.
better
That's
with
what a hound
individual
is.
people. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, so I think
Yeah.
I
To
think
your
that
point,
relationship is now bound. That those two are
I
bound.
think so
Arya
too.
and the Hound. I
Yeah.
think we're going to see them together from here on out, as unless she just gets rid of or tells him to go away or something. I think he's going to be on her heels from here on
Yeah.
out, like
Yeah.
her Bannerman or something.
Yeah. Her bonded bodyguard,
Yeah.
basically. Not that she needs one, but
No,
he's still
but
going to be there for her to have her back.
she needed one. She needed one when the ships were down. She needed, nobody in
Absolutely,
this
she did.
episode was going to handle stuff alone.
And of course, it ended up being, Barrick who, Sir Barrick who saved her, throwing
Yeah,
the flaming
which we're
sword,
getting into the death now, but that was an awesome death,
True,
Sir
true.
Barrick.
Yeah,
I
it
loved
really
that.
was.
Um,
I loved him.
almost Jesus like the way he was
Yeah,
his
yeah,
arms
Yeah, the
across
way he
the
was
board and they were
standing up.
stabbing.
Yeah,
yeah.
almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It
yeah,
was
he had
like he
his
was
Lord of Light moment.
he was making himself a wall to
Yeah,
hold them back, literally, and they're just jabbing into the
Just
wall to
stabbing
bring
it
him down.
repeatedly. Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was so kind of I really wasn't into the tension building in the first two episodes, but there was tension throughout this episode. When you think someone's dead, he's getting stabbed and he's holding the way, and then the next scene he's catching up with them and they're dragging him along, and you're like, gosh, he is still holding on to life.
He is
Yeah,
still.
this is the
Yeah.
real deal. He might be going down, but no person knows it's the moment to sacrifice.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Until it's
keep
the
fighting,
moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
you keep fighting and trying to keep going, and then when they kept turning those corners and you're trying to see who's still there and and you see he's still going after everything he's been through. I mean, I got that
Yeah.
same impression at the end with two characters, which right now I won't get into, when they were fighting back to back, and the desperation. I love that stuff. I love Last Stands. I love those moments where you see people having to rely on each other and the truth kind of comes out, even
Yeah.
where you have to depend on each other. And I loved that. I loved his death. It
I
was
love the Hound carrying
a
Arya,
safe
having to
call, but
carry Arya away from it. She was
yeah,
Yeah.
trying to pull him with her, but it was like
Uh-huh.
Hound knew that she had to be saved. That that's what Barrick was doing.
No, that was a great scene. Yeah. He just picked her up and said, we got to go.
for
Yeah.
whatever his fanaticism for the Lord of Light, Beric was the closest we had to a knight of the Seven Kingdoms before Brienne.
Brienne. Yeah. I agree.
He actually tried to defend the innocent and avenge wrongdoers and all that. And
So did his death feel right to you? It did to me.
Yeah, I definitely
Did
did.
it feel appropriate? Because he's been resurrected, what, like almost 10 times or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Like-
7, 8 times.
it
Yeah.
felt right, but it also felt like, again, he was a safe choice. And it would have felt more right to me if I'm trying to think of what episode, what show we watched, where once people started dying, it was on. It was like
It was
people were
relentless.
dying every two, and it was cutting between people dying. If it had cut between Barrett dying and then someone else dying and someone else dying, you would have really felt like the end is upon us.
This is the end. Yeah.
Yeah, which I did
That's
feel
a good
that in the
point.
moment when Tyrion kissed Sansa's hand.
Yeah.
I felt like it's over. We've lost or whatever. We're about to lose these characters. I really felt like that was the end.
Mhm.
And I knew it wasn't in my heart of hearts, but they convinced me in that second. You're right.
They did a good job of making you
Tyrion
believe.
believes he's about to die. Sansa believes she's about to die, and they're facing it. But, so anyway, if there had been some other sacrifices right there, when the wall is breached and all this, it felt a little flimsy to me because people kept getting out of these just absolutely deadly situations.
Yeah.
And we've seen how lethal the White Walkers and the zombies are.
Mhm.
So how? I don't understand how. But
Mhm.
Since
Yeah.
you mentioned the scene in the crypt, can I say one thing about it before
Of
we
course.
go on?
there's a lot. This is a long episode. There's a
The
lot to
two
touch on.
conversations between Tyrion and Sansa were among my favorites in the episode because I loved the conversation they had when they met again at Winterfell that ended with her saying, "I had thought you were the cleverest man I knew,"
Yeah.
when you were but what I liked in those scenes is that she finally admitted his decency and kindness in comparison to all the men that she had been pawned
Yeah,
off
she
to.
said you were the best of them.
Yeah, and at
Yeah.
the moment when he kissed her hand and he's looking at her, I'm thinking back to the time when he saw her survive Joffrey attacking her in front of everybody, and he had defended her, and then he said she's smarter than anyone thinks, and she's going to survive. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's like he's the one person of all the people there, except maybe the Hound, who recognized her value as a person rather than as a pawn in the political game.
Right.
In that moment
Right.
when he kisses her hand before they're going to round the corner and maybe be destroyed was a wonderful recognition of that long
What I
term.
like about Tyrion too is that he always used to rely on his position to get him out of trouble. Like he could slap Joffrey because he was his uncle, because people were just he was the imp. You know, people let him get away with a lot of stuff because his life was living hell already. But he was still a Lannister. He could buy people off. He could, you know, he could, the only people that didn't let him get away with stuff was his dad and his
Yep.
siblings or whatever. So slowly over these years, all that's been stripped away. And even his position, his hand doesn't really seem all that powerful. So I like that he is still consistent, even when he has to pay the price himself. Now there's nobody to stand up for him. He doesn't even have Braun, you know, looking out for him.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like that when the consequences are much more real, Tyrion's still true to, because you always thought before, yeah, he's audacious, but it's because he can always get out of it because of his position or whatever.
Yeah, and I've speaking of the crypt scenes as well, I really felt his frustration at having to be in the crypt.
Yeah.
I love the way I think he summed it up best. It's like if we were out there, maybe we could see something that someone else is missing that could really make a difference. You know, that was one of my favorite lines in the whole episode.
He didn't know how dark the whole thing was. Nobody saw anything.
It just kind of put his frustrations in a nutshell. I thought that was really interesting, and I enjoyed that. And I guess of course we got our answer to you know, whether or not they were going to raise the dead in the crypts.
Oh, God.
I'm still confused about that because I thought that's what was happening when we were seeing it. I thought the Stark dead were crawling out of the crypts in the walls. But then I've also read that people thought they burrowed through the walls somehow. The zombies that came into Winterfell burrowed through. I don't see how they could possibly do that, because it happened after the Night King raised his hands, right? That's when they started coming out. I think the lords were buried under big, you know, limestone blocks, whatever, and probably couldn't get out if they were. Oh gosh, that's an awful thought. But the regular, like their servants and stuff that were buried in the floors and the walls, medieval times, they tended to bury people standing up in the floor of places, under a cobblestone. You know, just the size of their head is right under there, and their feet are down. And also, you know, we know from catacombs and stuff, they tend to line the walls.
Yeah,
I think that's what we were seeing, but I think some people think that they were coming in from the outside.
I never even thought that once.
I thought that at first, but then Greedo said no. I think they were coming out of the crypt. And then when I watched it again, it was like, oh yeah, that's obviously what.
They're absolutely coming out of the crypt.
But I think the major Starks. I had been afraid that they would try to raise Ned Stark. You know, we asked the
I was
Three-Eyed
afraid
Raven
they
about
might try and
that.
do something like, and you see it.
Three-Eyed Raven, forsooth. Will Ned Stark rise from the grave?
Three-Eyed Raven. Will Eddard Stark return from the grave? As I see it, yes.
Oh, I knew it! There's Stu. I knew it.
You see an undead Ned Stark walking around.
Yeah, I thought that'd be kooky. I'm really glad they didn't go that far.
I'm very glad.
Now, I wouldn't have been opposed to Bran rallying the dead Stark somehow. But it would have been too much like a Return of the Jedi, you know, glowy Yoda, Obi-Wan, Anakin moment. Because I don't know how you do it, and it would also be too much like Return of the King with the undead army coming back to fulfill their oath or whatever. It's all been done.
Yeah.
But it would. I mean, heck, how awesome would it have been to see that though? We probably would have given it a pass, you know, if they had done it. If they had done it in the gritty kind of realism of almost like Shakespeare, like if you just took Sean Bean and just made him really pale. so he looks like Hamlet's father. You don't have to have him see through or anything.
Right, and
And then you turn
CGI
around
the
and look and
holes in
he's
him.
gone. You know, once he does
Yeah.
his job, whatever, you turn around and look, he's gone.
He's
There's no
gone.
fanfare, no nothing. Just,
Yeah.
I mean, people would have lost their minds over
That
that.
would have worked.
But yeah, but again, probably best they didn't go there. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
So
but
overall,
yeah, the crypt sequence was pretty much delivered, I thought, because it had some great character moments, and provided a nice change of pace. And I loved it when the guards were killed outside the door, and the guards were like, "Open the door, please, open the door."
Yeah.
yeah, that scene was intense. And then
That
it
is
just finally got
awesome.
quiet.
And everybody in the crypt is like, "We're screwed because
Yeah.
they're at the door, and our guys are dead." And
And they're
yeah,
begging
Our
us
guys
to,
are begging
to
for
let
help.
them
right. We just let Jed the Third die. Jedediah the Third,
in. Die of the
Plowman of the North.
exactly.
Should we talk about some of the other deaths?
Yeah. Let's get
What
into it.
about Dolorous Ed? I guess was the first named character to die, right? Dolorous Ed
Although
died.
everyone had to be reminded of his name
Yes.
before he needed a name tag. Remember me, Dolorous Ed. It's like, didn't you die? No, you didn't. Okay, you still all right? You're still alive.
But that was sad because he was the last remaining subsidiary Night's
And-
Watch guy. You know.
Dadgummit, this is where the show really pisses me off because Benjen Stark would have been so awesome to show up with Melisandre.
Yeah.
If
really
he had
was
found
sad.
her in the wilderness and led her back to the castle, why in the world did they kill him off in that episode?
Yeah, that
Have
was
him
a
come
waste.
running
Yeah.
in, and John's like, "Come with me," and he's like, "I've read the script. I can't do that."
And again,
You know, he's like, "Why did you go with
that's
him?"
my most hated episode in
It's
all of
like,
Game of Thrones.
I'm gonna delay
telling
these
you.
Yeah.
million zombies with my one little body while you escape. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. That'll help.
That
You
was one of the
Yeah, what
excuses.
was
So
his
freaking
excuse?
dumb.
He said something like the
Which
horse
is
can't
there's no
take
It's too
time.
late. It's too late. Just
There's
go.
no time.
And so then John rides up on a hill and turns around and watches him die. Like, I love it
because
when people
clearly
are like,
there's
I'm
no
gonna buy you time, and then okay, I'm gonna move 10 feet away and watch. It's like honor to sacrifice, mother, and move your ass. Out of there.
When they introduced Melisandre at the beginning of this episode, I was sitting next to Greedo, and you couldn't tell who was riding on horseback,
said
riding up
Stark,
Winterfell.
yeah.
Yes, and you said Ben Stark. Oh, if only. And it would have been cool to have the two of them together. It seemed like that would have been appropriate. He
Yeah.
needed to be brought back and given a more appropriate end, but
Right.
but
And
get it.
so where you fake kill Jon Snow 10 times in a row, you needed more angst, more sacrifice. You just bring Benjen Stark and then kill him off because you don't know what to do with him.
So what about Lady Lyanna Mormont? Her death.
That was
That
awesome.
was
That was awesome.
amazing.
I think
Yeah, she went out exactly like you would expect her to go out.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
the fact that she took out a giant was just very poetic. That she's the littlest one out there, and she took out the biggest one out there. I just
what
thought that
was
was
great
and it
though was the giant just knocked her aside, and you
Yeah.
thought,
right then. I
and,
thought,
and so
oh,
they
well,
honored the
she's dead.
truth of what would happen if a little girl faces a giant.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
gonna swat her to heck like a fly. So you got that moment, and you got the other moment. That was
And just
that
the
was the story.
sound of her, just him
Oh.
crunching her bones. That was just, that was intense. Yeah.
Game
really
of Thrones has
intense.
never shown pity on children,
Yeah.
I wish they had gone further. I wish she'd spat up a lung and ribs and snapped out out of her clothes.
Yeah, it was. But I think that was even sadder because of the conversation she had with Jorah in the last episode, where he said, "You're the last representative of our house."
Right.
He's trying to get her not to fight, and then Jorah goes down. House Mormont is dead, and so why don't we talk? Do you want to talk about his death next?
Oof. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready to talk about that.
That was my moment for the episode. Yeah, that was rough because he's been one of my favorite characters from day one, and obviously he's been there since day one. And I've just been dreading his death for several seasons now. And to see it actually happen was just, and the way it was shot was so amazing. And obviously he went out exactly like I thought he would, sacrificing himself to save Daenerys, and then just that shot of Drogon coming down and bringing his wing around.
Oh God.
kind of as in protection. That was
again,
just
I'm bringing up a
unbelievable.
lot of useless stuff, but was it Sir Barristan who
Mhm.
was killed off
Yes.
uselessly back in the
Yes.
season 4 or 5?
Yes,
Yeah.
I
by the
wish he
Sons of
had
the
been
Heart.
there
Yeah, I
too.
wish he'd have been there
I
too. Yeah,
what was he, sort of dawn or something, or sort of
something
morning?
like that.
No,
Sort
no,
of
he
morning.
wasn't. No, I think that was Alan, whatever,
Okay, well,
the
anyway, he
guy
was a
that knows Star
badass,
Trek.
whoever he was, and he got taken out like a chump
Mhm.
by a bunch of assassins or whatever. And I wish it had been like I wish there'd been more of Daenerys's followers there to fall in a row. I know I keep saying it's more impact. I know they wanted to give him his single moment, but if you had had like the Dothraki leader there and some of the Dothraki go down, and but I'm not gonna criticize it. It's a wish fulfillment. Like I wish there had been a little more to that, but that was just a wonderful epic a sequence of events, from the dragon being overwhelmed by the zombies, and you don't know, I mean, there was so many open questions, like, is the dragon, because they're stabbing the dragon all over its body.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
my God, that was
get
an
away, get
intense
away.
scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it flies off in horrible agony, and you don't know
yeah,
whether it's going to come back or die. You don't know if
yeah.
Jon's
I
dragon
honestly
survived
thought
the
it was
battle
gonna
with the undead
fight it
dragon.
right then.
Mhm.
And so Danny's left there kind of stunned, and I had, I was being bitter me. When Jorah showed up, I said, "Where the heck did he come from?"
Yes,
I
yes, you
say,
did.
"Come on," because she's 100 miles out over a burning trench full of zombies. It's like the zombies are there conveniently when they need to be, and they're not there conveniently. How did one guy in armor run on foot?
But
You
but
know,
there was
out
Yeah,
a
to
scene
find
right
her.
before
But
that
whatever.
there was a scene that telegraphed that because he was watching from the
Yeah, he
battlements and he
heard the
saw her
dragon
go
crying in
down.
agony. He knows the
Yes,
dragon's son. So when the
yeah,
dragon is
and he
crying,
headed out.
he knows which dragon it is.
Yeah,
It's hers, and he knows it's in trouble. And
yeah,
so he's like, "Screw this!
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
He
I'm
headed
not
out.
playing this role anymore. I'm going to find
Mhm.
her." So yeah, I get it, but that's why he's a hero, I guess, because he
Yeah.
could pull off the epic finding her in
Is
the.
that the
But
scene of people fighting back to back you mentioned earlier
yes,
that
there were two
switched
scenes of
back?
them fighting back to back. Jamie and Brienne was one of my
Yeah,
favorites, and
Yes, that
that
was
was
was that was
short.
my favorite.
It was too short, but it was awesome. But when they kept coming back to Jorah and Danny, and and they're just the desperation of that moment where
Mhm.
he's exhausted and all he can do is just keep defending her. He's not even thinking about what's happening. And I love the moment where the zombie jumped on his back and she stabbed it.
Yeah,
yeah.
She's not a great combatant, but she's
She's
doing her
she's
best, to
determined.
defend him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
And yeah, that was just freaking
And
amazing.
the
I'm
look
getting
of horror on her face.
now.
Emilia Clarke's performance was wonderful because
It
the
was.
constant look of horror and terror. She's seen this man that she's relied upon, who's been like this pillar of strength, going down in front of her, and
yeah.
she's doing what little she can to stop it.
I
And
kept
then
hoping that he would live too, and that the unexpected would happen, that he would,
I
wouldn't succumb
know.
to his wounds.
And
Wounds.
when he fell, I loved how you might not could have heard it very well if you didn't have the subtitles on, but they had the subtitles on in the theater where we saw it.
hmm
And the last words he said, "I'm hurt." And those were
Yeah.
his last word, "I'm hurt," is all that
Wow.
as he was just bleeding out everywhere from all it was just oh golly. But
Yeah.
let me mention the shot that Carillion mentioned about the dragon coming down and kind of embracing them. That moment where she's cradling him in her arms as he dies, and the dragon comes and makes that circle. It was so. I leaned over to Greedo while we were watching, and I'm like, "That's a Renaissance painting.
Yeah,
hmm
That's a Piata
Absolutely.
painting.
Yeah.
That's the Mary with Christ painting
hmm
or
I
statue."
thought the same thing with all the civilians in the crypt. When I think it was Tyrion looked at them, and they were all arranged kind of in a row at different
hmm
depths, and they were all wearing their different cloths of different colors and stuff. That really looked like a Renaissance. I think I said it to you. There's a Renaissance
Renaissance
Yeah.
painting
painting.
there.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
the photography is just beautiful. But yeah, the loss of Ser Jorah was appropriate, but it was heartbreaking.
Heart wrenching. Yep.
But it
I
was
wish the
just
dragon had been
beautifully
like,
done.
"Oh no, and then just like, count, count."
Wow.
It's like you might as well not go to waste.
Good meat.
Nothing better than night bone marrow. It's the best. But no, what a great way to anthropomorphize. Am I using the word right?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
dragon, and when you least expect it. I know they had that shot planned, and also it felt like everybody knows. I mean, whoever else died in this episode, Jorah had to be the biggest, right?
hmm
Yeah.
Who was
Oh,
the
yeah.
other death?
Theon.
Theon.
Okay, yeah, Theon, but that was so telegraphed. We knew that was
Yeah,
coming.
Yeah.
we knew that was coming.
They honored them both really well, but giving Jorah that moment with the dragon with its wings around it was really just like an epic send off. I don't think anybody on the show's ever gotten that before,
Mhm.
where you have just such a beautiful shot of we're going full romanticized knights and dragons now.
Yeah.
The gritty realism is out the window, or even the dragon is mourning the death of nobility at this moment.
Right,
Yeah.
That was freaking awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that really was.
In
so
another
well
realm, we would have been foes. Night dragon, mortal.
yeah.
But
What about the
what a
death
great
of?
job that guy did. The guy who plays
Oh
Jorah.
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
in all ways, and like you said,
Incredible.
his combat skills were
And his
wonderful.
horse riding skills and his
Yes.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
perfect for the role.
Again, not a guy when I read the book that I pictured in my head. I never pictured anything like him. But what an amazing choice. Somebody knew what they were
Yeah,
doing when they
great
cast him. So
casting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the death of Theon? He was the other major death of the episode.
Well, I mean, obviously, that was probably the most telegraphed of all of them. We knew it was coming. I mean, even when they set it up last episode, saying, "I'm going to be there to protect him. I'll watch over him." Everybody knew right then and there that's going to be the end of his redemption arc. He's going to die saving Bran Stark at the end, and that's exactly how it happened. But the way it was shot again, I was okay with it because it looks so amazing. He even gets the proverbial thumbs up from Bran at the end. Basically telling him that you're where Theon's trying to apologize, trying to stumble through an apology, and Bran just cuts him off in his Bran style and just says, everything you did brought you to this point, and this is where you should be. You're home. That was really, really intense.
it was acceptance. It was
Yeah.
acceptance and
Exactly.
forgiveness and everything. Yeah.
And I have to say, for all of Bran, has become this kind of robotic type supernatural entity rather than a human being. I did think the actor telegraphed some emotion in that moment. His eyes were starting to tear. It was like it's not even so much the person that he knew when he was a kid, but it was like he sees a human being in front of him who feels like he's done horrible crimes and has wasted his life and is trying to make an atonement for it. And he finally feels some human compassion. I felt human compassion out of Bran at that moment. Finally, some kind of human feeling out of
Yeah,
it.
I felt the same thing. Yeah, 'cause I kind of noticed looked like he was tearing up a bit when he was talking about that, and I actually sensed a little emotion in his voice. So.
I missed that.
Yep, well done.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that.
My mind races when I'm watching this stuff, and I thought Bran might be manipulating him actually for a minute, and it all came to a culmination when the Night King walked up, and I thought something was going to happen there. I thought there was going to be a twist. I didn't know what it was, but I thought there was going to be a twist there, and the thought did flash through my mind that is Bran really on the up and up on all this? Is he really the good guy? Is he innocent? If Martin was writing it, I have no idea because I don't know what he planned to do. But if you were the Three-Eyed Raven, just imagine with all that knowledge, and your perspective on people and stuff, and I could almost see him either cutting a deal or I don't know. I just thought there might be some kind of destiny intertwined with the Night King and Bran there. I'm not one that bought that Bran was the Night King or anything, but I thought there could be some destiny that was going to be revealed there in that moment that they, whatever they were going to say, you didn't get a chance to.
Do you want to talk about that ending then?
What other deaths did we have first before we?
I think those were all.
I think those are all the key deaths that we have.
Okay, so there was
Beric.
Ed the
Dolorous Ed,
Dolorous
Beric Dondarrion, Lyanna Mormont, Jorah, and Theon.
Yep.
Yeah.
And have we confirmed that people like Gendry were alive? I couldn't tell if Gendry was alive.
I'm just thinking that the fact that they didn't show him die.
All the articles that I read online had him listed among the living. I didn't actually see him. That. I did see Podrick, Brienne, Jaime, of course, Tyrion, Sansa, Sam, Gilly and Little Sam,
Yeah.
Varys in the crypt. I'm trying to think who
All the
else.
rumors of Varys' death were greatly exaggerated.
Yes,
I had a
yes.
feeling he has a part to play, but if I was sitting there thinking, like, if the Night King goes down this episode, we got intrigue coming up.
Yeah,
Varys
he's
is going
got
to
to
have
be
a
there
role
for
to
that.
play. Yeah.
Right.
You're
Plus,
right.
he's from that part of the world that the Golden Company is from.
Mhm.
So there's going to be something going on there.
But before we talk about the end, then, since we're talking about other characters surviving, let me ask you this. Another comment that I've seen repeated in the
Oh, Melisandre got her death.
Oh yes, yes,
Beautiful.
she died at
Loved
the
it.
very end.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was the best way to end the episode. Was
Oh
I, mean,
yeah.
I even read a review that suggested that was kind of a connotation that now the deal with the gods
It's
and
over.
this is over, and now it's going to be the humans that are going to be working it all out, kind of
Yeah,
like
you
it was
could
the
read
Lord
that
of the
into it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
you
like
know,
the age of magic is past,
yeah,
but the problem with that is the age of magic had already passed and it was coming back. So
yeah,
I don't think it's destroyed forever. It's an elemental
yeah.
force.
Maybe it's
Ice
just new
fire,
now.
ice fire aren't going anywhere.
Yeah,
Winter, summer, they're not going anywhere. But that I won't get into this now, but her death, I'm sure was disappointing to a whole lot of people who are book readers and
Mhm.
who have watched the show and paid attention to that whole story arc with the Azor High prophecy and the Lord of Light and everything. It almost seemed like her destiny was fulfilled with Arya, which really goes against every single thing they've set up to this point. They tried to draw it back with their conversation and say like,
Mhm.
see, she had a prophecy that Arya would be the one to do it. Or whatever. Not really.
Yeah.
That was a tremendous flop to me. I did think her death was poetic and awesome, and one of my favorite characters, Davos. Um, the fact
got
that
to
he was
witness
creeping
it.
behind
Yeah.
her, well, he
Mhm.
had murder on his mind,
Hmm.
absolutely no doubt. He was there to even the score, and I was looking forward to it. But I loved that he was true to his character, that he is not a killer really, and
Yeah. No, he's really
he
not.
believes in justice.
Yeah.
And even as wounded as he was, he let justice play out on its own
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and didn't raise his hand. And I love that character for all those reasons. He's the Onion Knight. He's not
He's
the
another survivor.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a
We
normal
forgot to
Exactly.
guy.
mention
He's
him.
if people listened to him, everything would have been different.
Yeah.
If they just listened to good counsel from him from the very beginning. If you read the books, also it's another thing you realize how trapped he was by the bad stuff going around that he couldn't get people's attention. They wouldn't listen
Yeah.
to him. But anyway, I love that moment for him. A brilliant moment for him. I'm glad they didn't drop it. You can't drop these grudges and vendettas because they're too well earned. And but he stayed true to character and watched her die, and I think that was enough for him.
Yeah,
Plus,
and I thought
he,
it was.
he was there when she
Oh,
raised
go
her
ahead.
on. He knows she's done good things too, but he's seen all the evil she's done.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I like that it
It,
happened at the sunrise, as after the
I
long
like
night.
yeah,
When we were
the
along.
symbolism of that I enjoyed.
What about since we mentioned survivors? This was what I was saying before, that there was another major complaint that I read in reviews I've looked at, that too many characters survive, too many of the main characters survive.
right.
And I wonder about this because I have mixed feelings. I kind of feel, I mean, when we watched this on the big screen with an audience, and they showed a shot where you saw Brienne, Jamie, Podrick still standing, people screamed out applauding that Brienne is still
Mhm.
alive, because
Mhm.
everybody in
Yeah.
the theater was convinced that she was going to die.
Yeah.
A part of me is like that, where I feel exhilarated that so many characters that I love are still standing to go on through the final episodes. Part of me feels like it's a cop out, that it reduces the stakes of this
Mhm.
battle that was supposed to be the last battle for humanity, the kind of apocalyptic battle. And I feel like the stakes would have been raised if we had seen more of our favorite characters pay the ultimate price. So I don't know quite what way to go with that. And that's where I'm thinking that maybe the last episodes might determine how I feel
Mhm.
about this, because I'm wondering if is that where the bloodbath going to occur? Are we going to go back from the gods messing with people's lives to people themselves destroying themselves and each other? Is that how that's going to play out? Or are we just going to revert to the old fantasy tropes of the good people triumph and live happily ever after in the end?
Right.
I'm really worried about that now. So
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Did enough
Well,
people die?
I sense that there's a Greedo rant coming.
There's been one coming this whole time. I've been so kind.
Well, how about we unleash the Greedo rant? Let's hear from the Rhodian contingency.
No, not yet. No, please let me savor the moment.
Oh.
All I wanted to say was, young Gundark, which side of you do you think you should listen to? The one that wants fan service? Or the one that wants to unleash the gritty realism and death?
Oh, no.
Integrity. Oh, no, I'll answer your question. Did enough characters die? Sure. It's episode 3. Sure, enough
Yeah,
characters.
I'm okay with it.
Whatever. It doesn't matter how characters
surprised
died,
the
which
bigger-
characters died.
Yeah, I mean, Ser Jorah aside, I'm surprised we didn't get a bigger character death. But I'm not disappointed, and I'm not. I wasn't put off by it. I think it's okay. I still think, obviously, we haven't seen the end of the carnage. Obviously, we know more is coming, but I think
Character deaths shouldn't dictate story. And that's where The Walking Dead, stumbled into problems. Is they somehow thought we can kill people and continue to kill people, and it'll somehow all work out. Yeah, it's a powerful moment, but like I said, it becomes a snuff film and just a gratuitous fascination with who do we love that's going to be taken from us. It's holding the audience hostage in a way. It's not story. It does not equal story. Glenn under a dumpster doesn't equal story. There's no story there. So I don't care how many got killed, as long as it was a good story. My complaint is the second part of your question it was too safe. It was all the choices were super safe. They were characters that you could see they ran out of ideas for, and they chose. I mean, Ser Jorah, they have no ideas for him. He's gonna die defending Dany. They already decided that.
Yeah.
I've been saying in these two things. That's why I wanted Theon and Jorah to live, because they are marked for death, and it would be more interesting to see
them live.
Yeah, to see people. Why can't people overcome? And they even addressed it in the after show thing, where one of the showrunners said, "Not that you have to be redeemed and die instantly 5 minutes later, but that's what happened with Theon." Well, it's just more interesting if Theon has to bear that cross the rest of his life.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what he would do with that. Not to mention, to me, his death was pointless. I don't understand what he accomplished with that. It really was. Anyway, we're getting into my rant now. I'm going to draw back because I was determined to be positive, but I do have a list. I have a list.
A list.
I have a list.
Oh, no.
We may have to do a separate video, but I have severe problems with this episode. I really did like the episode, but I do have severe problems with it. We'll get to it in a minute. But okay, so what were we talking about? What do you say, Krillin? You said no, the deaths were okay. Do you think they made safe choices? Would it have more impact?
Yeah, no. You made a very good point.
Scrambled a little.
The choices were safe. I think both Theon and Ser Jorah were going to go, and they went out exactly as they set it up to go out.
Right.
So they can't say, "Hey, we didn't kill." Yeah, it's not that we didn't kill anybody; they did, but they definitely killed some of the most predictable ones. I did think that for me, out of all of them, I think Lyanna Mormont was the one surprise. I didn't expect her. I expected her to live to the end of the show. So that was
solidly picked her death the whole time. I even put her down on the death pool before we watched it. I added her name. Her name wasn't on it. I added her name at the bottom.
So anyway, yeah. I mean, I think that the deaths they chose were safe, with the exception of Lyanna.
See, the complaints that I read in reviews were Game of Thrones is getting soft. They're too sentimental about their characters to kill them off. Yeah, they don't want to kill off their main characters. But another critic, the one for Vox, made an interesting comment. He was agreeing at first, and then he said he thought about it more today, and he wrote a different article in which he changed his outlook. He said he thought that maybe what was happening is that they were being even more subversive than imagined by keeping a lot of these people alive, because we expected so many of them to die, and instead they're going to take part in the bloodbath to come. That the real problem might be what do you do after you survive the apocalypse? How do you get along, and how are you going to solve it? all of these conflicts between them have broken out have been brought to the surface because of the fight
Yeah.
with the Night King, and now that's what they're going to have to face.
It's like Normandy Beach. Well, if you're with the guys that stormed the beach, but you all hate each other, surviving that just epic apocalypse, are you now bound together for life?
What do you do then?
Or as soon as it calms down, do you turn on each other?
Do you immediately start fighting?
Yeah,
each other?
or is it a crucible so intense that you face it down? I think you go on and you become the legends who stood against the Night King, but I still think all the ambition comes out. I still think all the grudges come out and everything like that. I think this is a false. I've been saying this the whole time. That you better watch out.
Yeah.
Because
it's a
these
false
people,
sense of camaraderie.
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody. We'll see next time, but you've got a very ragtag group left to try to ally somehow.
Right, they've been decimated. I'm interested to see if they address and show just how few survived the battle and kind of what they have left to pick up the pieces and actually do they have any ability to march south? Do they have any ability to defend themselves? Because Cersei predicted this last season. If you remember that, she's like, let's just let the Night King and his army in the north just tear each other apart, and we'll go up and take out whoever survives. So that's
I like that meme,
falling right into her plans.
I can't remember who shared it on the internet, that meme where they said, if the Night King follows Bran, why don't we take Bran to King's Landing?
King's Landing.
And maybe the army will just march straight down there and decimate Cersei.
We all know around here, Solo always does shots first. Singing Yum Nub, raise your glass and sing Yum Nub. Sing it with me, Yum Nub. At the Cantina Club. Singing Yum Nub, Yum Nub, singing Yum Nub at the Cantina Club.